Action.
GLENMORAGIE is a Highland single malt Scotch whisky. So it's in the Highland region, way up in the northeast of Scotland. We use mineral rich water from our own Tarlogie spring. We mix this with Scottish malted barley and yeast to create a huge range of flavours during our fermentation. We then distill in the tallest copper pot stills of any distillery in Scotland to make a clean, floral and fruity spirit. And then we're famed for our wood maturation policy, none more so than GLENMORAGIE Original, where we only use our casks twice. So GLENMORAGIE is famous. My boss, Dr. Bill Lumsden, in particular, for mastering wood finishing. Wood finishing is a process where we mature our GLENMORAGIE in one type of cask, but then before we bottle it, we actually put it into a different type of cask to add other flavours. So GLENMORAGIE, because it's a light, elegant spirit, really does sort of belong in American oak, American white oak. But what we do is we have 3 extra matured GLENMORAGIEs where we, rather than bottle them as GLENMORAGIE Original, we put them into different casks. So we have Lasanta, which means warmth in Scotland, where we transfer into Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez sherry casks for an additional 2 years to make a 12-year-old sherry finished whiskey, which is spicy, warm and intense. We also follow that same technique of 10 years in ex-bourbon, 2 years in port casks to make Quinta Ruban, which has lots of dark chocolate, some wild honey, and even this lovely little bit of mintiness right at the end. And then the third of our extra mature range is the 12-year-old GLENMORAGIE Nectar d'Or. It literally means golden liquid of the gods, and that's because we use French dessert wine called Sauterne. Very exclusive, very beautiful wine that's very rich and sugary, and it just turns GLENMORAGIE into everything you would taste in a French patisserie. So Ardbeg Distillery is a very small distillery on the island of Islay that makes an intensely smoky single malt Scotch. We use malt that has a ppm, which is the measure of phenols, of 50 and above. So what we do is we take this intensely smoky raw spirit and we mature it in ex-bourbon barrels for a minimum of 10 years. Now we're only looking for the barrels to take off any rough edges. The casks are only there to take off any rough edges. We really want to preserve Islay in this whiskey. So we have about 60 or 70% of the flavour is the smoky, medicinal, raw flavour of Islay and Ardbeg, and the rest is what happens over the 10 years. Probably my favourite Ardbeg, and if I had one word to describe it, it would be raw, because it really is not for everyone, but a special whiskey.